Well, let me see. This last week, I was going through Facebook, and sometimes you get some really good things on Facebook. For instance, Janice Powell put something up. Do you recall what that was? Something about tires?
I think Mike remembers.
I'm not sure I want you to refresh my memory though.
Well, I guess that proves that sometimes we post things on Facebook and we just don't remember it. It was about somebody that got a note that, oh yes, there you go. Anyway, sometimes we receive really good messages on social media. And so this last week I was really struggling with a topic for today's sermon. Then suddenly a cousin of mine, John Baker, posted something on my Facebook that could be life and marriage changing if you would listen to it and act. And so some of you may have heard this or read this, but I don't care, I'm going to read it anyway. The Bible indicates that God created marriage as a good thing. It is a beautiful, priceless gift. He uses marriage to fight loneliness, in my case, multiply our effectiveness, establish families, raise children, enjoy life, and bless us with intimacy. Beyond this, marriage forces us to realize our need to grow and deal with our own issues like self-centeredness through the help of a lifelong partner. If we are teachable, we can learn to love unconditionally. It is wonderful, difficult, and life-changing. Instead of following your heart, you need to lead it. Jeremiah 17:9 reads, "The heart is deceitful above all things, and beyond cure. Who can understand it?" Your heart and emotions can lead you to what feels right in the moment, not necessarily what is good in the long run. We should instead lead our hearts to what is best for the long run. If you truly love someone, you should not seek to change them into the person you would like them to be. Trying to change your spouse will only lead to failure and frustration. Love is a decision followed by action, not a feeling that can change from day to day. Corinthians 13:13 reads, "Now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." Some old guy, Gilbert Keith Chesterton, 1874 to 1936, was one of the most influential English writers of his day. He has been called the Prince of Paradox. He was known for his insightful views on many issues. Time magazine observed of his writing style. Whenever possible, Chesterton made his points with popular sayings, proverbs, and allegories, first carefully turning them inside out. His prolific and diverse output included journalism, philosophy, poetry, biography, Christian apologetics, fantasy, and detective fiction. The Times newspaper once had asked a number of authors to write on the topic, "What is wrong with the world?" Chesterton's answer at that time was the shortest of all those submitted. He simply wrote, "I am." He was not joking. As a Christian writer, his answer was very basic. The problem with our marriages will never be addressed in full until we come to understand in our minds, hearts, hands, and moral fiber and soul that the problem lies first and foremost with us. So you might wonder how this relates to marriage. Well, I held a marriage class a couple years ago based on the movie Fireproof Your Marriage, previously quoted on the first page. The basic premise is that you cannot do anything to change your partner or what they do. You can only change what you do. We have met the enemy of our marriage, and it is us. I received the following story on my Facebook timeline recently and decided to share it with you all, whether you've heard it or not. This is an honest, open story from a young woman about her marriage. There are some powerful truths spoken here, worthy of notice and reflection. If you're married, have ever been married, or plan on getting married eventually, this is for you. She starts, "My aha moment happened because of a package of hamburger meat. I had asked my husband to stop by the store to pick up a few things for dinner. And when he got home, he plopped the bag on the counter. I started pulling things out of the bag and realized that he'd gotten the 70-30 hamburger, which means it's 70% lean and 30% fat. I asked, 'What's this?' 'Hamburger meat,' he replied, slightly confused. 'You didn't get the right kind,' I said. 'I didn't,' he replied, with his brow furrowed. 'Was there some other brand you wanted or something?' 'No, you're missing the point,' I said. 'You got the 70-30. I always get at least the 80-20. He laughed. 'Oh, that's all? I thought I'd really messed up or something.' That's how it started. I launched into him. I berated him for not being smarter. Why would he not get the more healthy option? Did he even read the labels? Why can't I trust him? Do I need to spell out every little thing for him in minute details so he gets it right? Also, and the thing I was probably most offended by, why wasn't he more observant? How can he not have noticed over the years what I always get? Does he not pay attention to anything that I do? as he sat there, bearing the brunt of my righteous indignation and muttering responses like, I never noticed. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. And I'll get it right next time, dear. I saw his face gradually take on an expression that I'd seen on him a lot in recent years. It was a combination of resignation and demoralization. He looked eerily like our son does when he gets chewed out. That's when it hit me. Why am I doing this? I'm not his mom. I suddenly felt terrible and embarrassed for myself. He was right. It really wasn't anything to get bent out of shape over. And there I was doing just that, over a silly package of hamburger meat that he dutifully picked up from the grocery store, just like I asked. If I had specific requirements, I should have been clearer. I didn't know how to gracefully extract myself from the conversation without coming across like I have some kind of split personality. So I just mumbled something like, yeah, I guess we'll make do with this. I'm going to start dinner. He seemed relieved that it was over. And then he left the kitchen. And then I sat there and thought long and hard about what I'd just done. And what I'd been doing to him for years, probably. This hamburger meat moment, as I've come to call it, certainly wasn't the first time I scolded him for not doing something the way I thought it should be done. He was always putting something away in the wrong place, or leaving something out, or neglecting to do something altogether. And I was always right there to point it out to him. Why do I do that? How does it benefit me to constantly belittle my husband, the man that I have taken as my partner in life, the father of my children, the guy I want to have by my side as I grow old? Why do I do what women are so often accused of and try to change the way he does every little thing? Do I feel like I'm accomplishing something? Clearly not. Especially if I feel I have to keep doing it. And why do I think it's reasonable to expect him to remember everything I want and to do it just that particular way? The instances in which he does something differently, does it mean he's wrong? When did my way become the only way? When did it become okay to constantly correct him and lecture him and point out every little thing I didn't like as if he were making some kind of mistake? And how does it benefit him? Does it make him think, wow, I'm sure glad she was there to set me straight? I highly doubt that. He probably feels like I'm harping on him for no reason whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure it makes him think that his best approach in regards to me is to either stop doing things around the house or to avoid me altogether. Two cases in point. Number one, I recently found a shard of glass on the kitchen floor. I asked him what happened. He said he broke a glass the night before. When I asked him why he didn't tell me, he said, I just cleaned it up and threw it away because I didn't want you to have a conniption fit over it. Number two, I was taking out the trash and found a pair of blue tube socks in the bin outside. I asked him what happened and why he'd thrown them away. He said, they accidentally got in the wash with my jeans. Every time I put in the laundry, you feel the need to remind me not to mix the colors with the whites. I didn't want you to see them and reinforce your obvious belief that I don't know how to wash clothes after 35 years. So I got to the point where he felt it was a better idea, or just easier, to cover things up than admit that he'd made an error. What kind of environment have I created where he feels he's not allowed to make mistakes and has to walk on eggshells? And let's look at these offenses. A broken glass, a pair of blue tube socks, both common mistakes that anyone could have made. But he was right. Regarding the glass, I not only pointed out his clumsiness for breaking it, but also due to the shard I found, his sad attempt at cleaning it up. As for the socks, even though he clearly stated it was an accident, I gave him a verbal lesson about making sure he pays more attention when he's sorting his clothes. Whenever any issues like this arise, he'll sit there and he'll take it for a bit, but always responds in the end with something like, I guess it just doesn't matter that much to me. I know now what he means is, this thing that has you so upset is a small detail, or a matter of opinion, or a preference. And I don't see why you're making it such a big deal. But from my end, I came to interpret it over time that he really didn't care about my happiness, or trying to do things the way I think they should be done. I came to view it like, this guy just doesn't get it. I am clearly the brains of this operation. I started thinking about what I'd observed with my friends' relationships and things my girlfriends would complain about regarding their husbands. And I realized that I wasn't alone. Somehow, too many women have fallen into the belief that wife always knows best. There's even a phrase that reinforces this: happy wife, happy life. That doesn't leave a lot of room for his opinions now, does it? It's an easy stereotype to buy into. Look at the media. Movies, TV, advertising, they're all filled with images of hapless, incompetent husbands and clever wives. Like Doug Heffernan on King of Queens. Raymond on Everybody Loves Raymond. He can't take care of the kids. If you send him out to get 3 things, he'll come back with 2. And they'll both be wrong. We see it again and again. What this constant nagging and harping does is send a message to our husbands that says, we don't respect you. We don't think you're smart enough to do these things right. We expect you to mess up. And when you do, you'll be called out on it swiftly and without mercy. Given this kind of negative reinforcement over time, he begins to feel like nothing he can do is right in your eyes. If he's confident with himself and who he is, he'll just come to resent you. If he's at all unsure about himself, he'll start to believe what you're sending him. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Neither one is a desirable or beneficial outcome to you, him, or to your marriage. Did my husband do the same to me? Just as I'm sure there are untold numbers of women who don't ever do this kind of thing to their husband, I'm sure there are men who do to their wives as well. But I don't think it is a typical male characteristic. As I sat and thought about it, I realized that my husband didn't display the same behavior toward me. I even thought about some of the times I really did make mistakes. Like the time I backed into the gate and dented the car. He never said a word. The time I was making dinner, got distracted by a call from my mom and burned it to cinders. He just said, "Oh, we can just order a pizza." The time I tried to put the new patio furniture together and left his good snap-on tools out in the rain. "Oh, accidents happen," was his only response. I shuddered to think what I would have said had the shoe been on the other foot and he'd made those mistakes. So is he just a better person than me? Why doesn't he bite my head off when I don't do things the way he likes? I'd be a fool to think it doesn't happen, and yet I don't remember him ever calling me out on it. It doesn't seem he's intent on changing the way I do things. But why? Maybe I should take what he always said at face value. The fact that these little things really don't matter that much to him. It's not a sign that he's lazy or that he's incapable of learning or that he just doesn't give a damn about what I want. Maybe to him the small details are not that important in his mind. They're just not the kind of things to start fights over. They're not the kind of things that he needs to change about me. It certainly doesn't make him dumb or inept. He's just not as concerned with some of the minutiae as I am. And it's why he doesn't freak out when he's on the other side of the fence. The bottom line in all this is that I chose this man as my partner. He's not my servant. He's not my employee. He's not my child. I didn't think he was stupid when I married him, otherwise I wouldn't have. He doesn't need to be reprimanded by me because I don't like the way he does some things. When I got to that point mentally, it then made me start thinking about all the good things about him. He's intelligent. He's a good person. He's devoted. He's awesome with the kids. And he does always help around the house. Just not always to my liking. Even more, not only does he refrain from giving me grief when I make mistakes or do things differently than him, he's also been very agreeable to my way of doing things. And for the most part, if he notices I prefer to do something a certain way, he tries to remember it in the future. Instead of focusing on those wonderful things, I just harp on the negative. And again, I know I'm not alone in this. If we keep attempting to make our husbands or wives feel small or foolish or inept because they occasionally mess up, then eventually they're going to stop trying to do things. Or worse yet, they'll actually come to believe that those labels we give them are true. In my case, it's my husband of 12 years I'm talking about. The same man who thanklessly changed my car tire in the rain. The guy who taught our kids to ride bicycles. The person who stayed with me at the hospital all night when my mom was sick. The man who has always worked hard to make a decent living and support his family. He knows how to change the oil in my car. He can reinstall my computer's operating system. He lifts things for me that are too heavy and opens stuck jar lids. He shovels the sidewalk. He can put up a ceiling fan. He fixes the toilet when it won't stop running. I can't or don't want to do any of those things. And yet I give him grief about a dish out of place or getting the wrong hamburger meat. He's a good man who does a lot for me and doesn't deserve to be harassed over little things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. Since my revelation, I try to catch myself when I start to nag. I'm not always 100% consistent, but I know I've gotten a lot better. And I've seen that one little change make a big improvement in our relationship. Things seem more relaxed. We seem to be getting along better. I think we're both starting to see each other more as trusted partners, not adversaries at war. I've even come to accept that sometimes his way of doing things may be better. It takes two to make a partnership. No one is always right and no one is always wrong. And you're not always going to see eye to eye on every little thing. It doesn't make you smarter or superior or more right to point out every little thing that he does is not to your liking. Ladies, remember, it's just hamburger meat. Ladies, today, if you think that I'm picking on you, I'm not. Some men do these things to belittle their wives as well. Wives, that must be plural for them thar people in Utah. So I hope that after hearing this, that perhaps somebody may recognize something that they have been doing to their mate and stop it before it's too late. Worship team of one.